welcome to another video building the Titanic. When I purchased the actual model itself, one of the things that I really liked was that it came with lighting. When I received the boat itself, I opened up the little lighting pack and I was kind of impressed with it. I'd never really thought about putting lights on a boat or ship or any model for that matter. The LED lighting seemed pretty impressive, but as I dug into it and started doing some research, I realized that the lighting system is not sufficient enough for what I planned on getting done. Especially when I purchased the Woody I-beam setup detail kit, and which I'll be receiving sometime soon. You needed to individually set some lights on there. The other thing is the shades of light. I wanted to get different shades of light, and I said to myself, wait a minute, I've done this before. Back in the day I built a train set and it was really involved, but one of my major problems was lighting. And I used some Eve modulars, and what they did, they were basically modules that distributed power for certain areas. So when I started that train set and I finished all the lighting, a train would come by a certain area, you would see some lights dim here. If I added more power to one area, lights would dim somewhere else. I corrected that with the modulars. So I decided to use those modules as the foundation of setting up the lighting for the Titanic. So let me show you what this looks like. So here is the actual modular setup. This is the foundation of the lighting system I will be using for the Titanic. Now I've done a couple things to alter this system so it can actually fit, because obviously I'm not using this on a train set. The first thing that I altered was actually the switch that came with the Titanic. I kind of like the switch. So this is very easy to open. You just go to the left, the hole right here, you can pry it right up, and then you go to the left and you pry it up little by little and it just comes off. There's no screws, it's just a compression push. I just unsoldered the stuff in there and connected my wire. The next thing I did, if you notice, these modulars have the inlets for power right here, these little black things. I unsoldered it out of this one. As you can see, it's here on the side, and I'm gonna get that on the bottom of the hull so we can just plug it in whenever we want. So that's the way I set up the incoming power to it. It's actually a 12-volt system, so you have plenty of power for LED lights. I mean, you can actually run LEDs. When I started the first run, I was actually using a 9-volt battery and it lit everything up with no problem. And that was before I did the setup with the hard power from the wall outlet. Now the first modular that I set up over here is going to be for the hall lighting. It's just going to fall in a couple strips. The hall lighting is going to be lit through the window ports with fiber optic wire, and I got many sizes to fit the different size of holes up there the way it's going to be set up. Let me go ahead and light this up for you to show you what it looks like, because I wanted to talk about these LED lights right here. Now I have them really low for the purpose of this video because they're too bright to keep on as we talk, and you're not supposed to be looking at LED lights directly. The power for this one is actually going to shoot up high, and that's what it's going to look like. When you have this much light emitting, you're gonna have hot spots inside your hull. So paint the hull, make sure you paint the hull or protect it from light spots, from all this emission of light. Now I'm gonna more than likely paint mine white. You can do whatever you want, but make sure you paint it either way. I'm gonna turn this down. So basically, as you can see, we have total control. So each one of these modulars follow through with the image on the left here. This first part right here is an actual switch, and that switch goes from 12 volt to 3 volt and 6 in the middle. The little blue dial right here is the dial that's going to be any voltage in between 12, 6, and 3. Okay, so you can turn it up and down any way you want. Now, as you can see, these modulars are pretty much daisy chained, and that's what they were designed for. So you go ahead and you just daisy chain them all the way through. Obviously, I use their wires, but you'll have to extend these wires because they're going to be in different areas, of course. You'll be good to go. You have 2 inlets for power. Actually, these 2 inlets will be taking the 12-volt power and another outlet and inlet here to complete the daisy chain. It's pretty self-explanatory, and the good thing about it is when I turn this up, notice how there hasn't been any changes on any of the light. I mean, the power is being distributed perfect. So if I want to have this one all the way up and I want to turn these guys down to get the effect I'm looking for, you can see where this is going. So like I said, this first modular is going to be for the hall lighting. The second modular is going to be as a point light, as you can see, and it's more than likely going to be used to point at the funnels themselves. I don't know if I'm going to use this. I may use this one. This one actually looks good, but I wanted to get something realistic, something a little bit better, so I'll figure that out. The third modular is actually going to be used to light up walls. So this will be the wall light. Now when you look directly at the LED light, it's kind of bright. When you look at it with the naked eye, it's not bright at all, and that's exactly what you want on the wall light. Especially the wall lights, you don't want something super bright because it will light around the plastic area, and that looks pretty nasty. So that's going to look great on all the walls. I'm going to speak about the fourth modular later. The fifth modular is going to be for interior lights, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see the light here, the ceilings for the interior parts are about A high, so I kind of already adjusted it to where I want it, and that's going to be emitting great light. And the good thing about these guys, it's also made by Eve, a model. You can glue these right on top of the ceiling of any of the interior areas, and you won't get any hot spots coming from this light. It just points straight down. That's great. Awesome lights. Now let's talk about this, because this particular setup are the real reason why I decided to look into this and set up this foundation of lighting for the boat. Now this particular modular is going to be focused only on the Woody detail kit. So let's take a look at that. Here's the Woody detail kit. Notice these little holes that are all over the place. Those are your light ports. That's exactly where the lights are going to be coming from. These are the I-beams that are located on deck A. When you look at this situation, you say it's pretty overwhelming, and it is overwhelming. And whenever I get to situations where they're overwhelming as far as putting stuff together, I plan stuff out. So here's a set of plans for getting this thing set up correctly, and not only that, understanding exactly how things are going to go. Here's the actual drawing itself. As you notice, I turned around and put a copy of the sheet to the left of the drawing that I'll be using as a reference. The bottom of the actual plans, you will notice that I drew out the actual ceiling area of that deck. I also broke it down exactly the way each one of these parts of the sheet is going to land. So if you look at port C, you'll just find port C where it's labeled, and that'll be that one, and so on and so forth. I also indicated how many lights are used per section. That pretty much lays it out right there. Now, as far as setting up resistors, like I said, you don't have to use the resistors when you're using the distribution board, but I use them as edit protection. You don't have to, and you can set this up to a certain area, but I did blow a couple of the really small LED lights messing around with this, so I rather have the resistors, because once we put this together, you're not going to be able to take it apart or get to it. They are very sturdy, very clean, they last for a long time, and they don't get hot at all. The hottest part of the whole system here is the actual lights themselves. The lights I would be using for this particular beam setup is going to be a 2mm 805 LED lights, so they're really tiny. One of the things I did not mention is that I will be putting a kill switch, as you can see right here, and if you look to the left of the diagram, you notice there's a little red jumper. That's where it will connect. That jumper is actually jumping the board to stay on, but you pull that jumper out, it turns off. So that is your on and off switch right there. You'll have 5 little micro switches underneath where you could turn off each section that you want to turn on and off. It's just a little added feature. You don't have to do it, but that's the way I'm going to put it together. So as you can see, I have this all planned out, and hopefully everything will work out. As far as the power is concerned, I think I have a pretty good handle on it. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. Using this little daisy chain setup modular power distributors, I think will work perfect. You'll have your different shades of light, just looking and targeting realism. If you can expand on this, please leave the comments below. So thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next one.